we can take some time to focus specifically on the oil and gas sector. Can you maybe explain the current situation with the oil and gas markets, given the global supply and demand dynamics?
My quick answer is that if I knew where the price of oil will be, certainly I will not be here, and certainly I will not be telling people, because then I'll be secretly investing. The oil price scenario is the most difficult forecast that anybody can do. So, first of all, it's very difficult to predict. However, there are certain trends that we're seeing today. And often in a crisis, because I've lived probably 4 or 5 different crises from the 1990s when I was a younger economist. I could see the crisis unfolding in Asia. When you're in the midst of a crisis, you tend to be, and this is a natural human trait, very pessimistic. On the other end, when we're riding high economic times and everybody enjoys the good growth that we see, we forget that good times do not last forever. So I'm trying to say that in a difficult moment, we tend to say things are going to be very bad for a long time, and we all tend to be very depressed, and we see the negative picture. So here, what I'm going to say is that on the oil price, yes, we could see some short-term downward trend in terms of pricing. That is a possibility. Why? Because oil prices are driven by demand. And today, demand is at its lowest. So today, many analysts are saying, oh, the oil price is going to go further down. And it could be that we go further down. But then we're going to recover from this COVID-19 pandemic. The world is not going to be the way we see it today. Let's be a little bit realistic. We're not going to be locked up forever. This is going to be done and over. So demand is going to pick up. And with demand, prices are going to pick up. Yes, there are supply issues. There is a lot of oil out there. And the UAE took the right decision with the rest of its OPEC partners to address the issue of supply and begin cutting supply. And they will look at it again come June. The right measures will be taken. And the pickup in global demand is going to be a factor where we'll see prices going up. We're not going to see it immediate, but we will see it towards the third quarter of this year and the fourth quarter, where prices should begin to pick up. And I think that we're going to see this recovery story theme dominating in 2021. The International Monetary Fund is trying to address the issue of economic growth for more than 110 countries today. 110 countries have asked for assistance from the International Monetary Fund. So this is a very different crisis. Authorities in the UAE know how to manage this crisis. In fact, I would say this, and I would add that the UAE authorities know very well how to manage a crisis like this, because they have seen in the past many other crises. So this is not something new, and they have the right people managing this. Actually, having the right people is 50%, if not more, to managing the crisis the right way.
Now, in staying on this subject and in light of the current market environment that you've described, can you maybe share with us some insights on what the major oil and gas companies are doing globally to weather the storm, so to speak? And do you think the playing field will be very different even after a full recovery from the pandemic?
I think that the world and oil and gas companies will have to rethink in major ways how they're going to position themselves. And many companies over the last 5 years have been thinking what they're going to do. Few companies have actually managed to do something since 2015, when we witnessed another collapse in oil prices. Remember, in 2014, 2015, oil prices fell again, and a lot of countries started worrying. Oil and gas companies started worrying. And I think this is a unique situation where ADNOC is placed. We're seeing tectonic shifts. We're seeing a mindset that is different globally about oil and gas and about climate change and decarbonization. I think it is important for oil and gas companies to think of the post oil future. Not necessarily I'm arguing that oil is going to disappear and demand is going to disappear, but the demand is going to shift. This is not going to be a similar demand structure than what we were going through pre COVID. People could be more conscious about a decarbonized world. Oil and gas companies need to think and have been thinking, especially in Europe and some of the oil majors, about renewables. And the UAE has been at the forefront, in many ways, a revolutionary when it comes to renewables. And I think within that environment of renewables, the UAE and ADNOC needs to think of what is that future going to be.
Now, if we take a step back, what are some of the key lessons learned from the COVID-19 impact on both the oil and gas sector and the global economy so far? And how much better do you think we will be at dealing with a similar situation?
I think the lesson learned is that there are many unknown unknowns that the world is going to go through, and there is a need for patience, and there is a need for timeliness. Having said that, the world is going to also change the way it sees supply chains. No longer are we going to necessarily see Asia, and within Asia, China, as being the only reliant partner to support countries around the world on the supply side of manufacturing industry and so forth. A lot of countries are going to decide to be more individualistic or self dependent, and they're going to look at the world in a very self centered way. This doesn't necessarily mean that there are going to be massive amounts of trade wars, but at the same time, this is not going to be just about globalization and that's it. At the same time, there's going to be, I think, a shift, a structural shift away from efficiency and productivity towards more thinking about survival. And survival of companies is going to take a prescient movement over just efficiency and productivity and bottom line.
John, thank you very much for your time and your valuable insights. As the situation around us continues to evolve, these types of conversations are crucial not only to ensure that our society is better informed, but also to help us successfully navigate these uncertain times. Thank you again. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Saud.